Hello girls, a very good morning. For today's class we're going to discuss Ted Hughes' poem Pike. Ted Hughes, as you know, is known for his use of cynicism and brutality of animal life. For example, in our previous class we discussed View of a Pig. So this particular Pike is no exception and depicts Pike as an animal born with the instinct to kill and destruct. He has allegorically used it to imply that every human has got such nature, which is revealed when he wants to achieve something over the other. It also serves as a reminiscence of his childhood. The poem Pike is published in his second collection, that is Lupercal, of poetry, which exalted his reputation as a major poet of America. Ted Hughes has divided this particular poem in three parts. The first part deals with the admiration of the pike, comes in the beginning of the poem, where the poet describes the size and the color of the pike with its grandeur by nature. He then keeps on admiring the beauty and the presence of the fish in the water. He gives a visual imagery of how it lives in its natural habitat. Second part is about his reminiscence of childhood, where he visited the lake frequently and his experience of the three fish he and his friends grew at home. That experience gave him the lesson that the strong ones survive in the world, whereas the weaker ones must come to their fate of being eaten by the healthy one. And the third part discusses about his respect and fear for the fish, whose eyes and malevolent grin still haunting him at night. Let's begin with the poem. As I said, that he's describing in the first few stanzas, he's describing about the size and color. So he begins with the and he says, pike 3 inches long, perfect pike in all parts, green tiggering the gold, killers from the egg, the malevolent aged grin, they dances on the surface among the flies. So as you can see, I've also provided you with a picture. So pike is a kind of a fish, and how long he say this pike is? 3 inches long, perfect pike in all parts. Perfect pike is that it has got sharp edges at all, and what is the color? It is green tiggering the gold. Tiggering is the blending of green and yellow. So as you can see, I've provided the picture. There is this color, so green tiggering the yellow. Killers from the egg. And what sort of fishes they are? They are killers from the egg. They are like this. They are from, have taken birth to kill. The malevolent aged grin. Aged is something which is ancient, and malevolent is that they have evil for others. And where can you find them? They dance on the surface among the flies. So it seems as if they are dancing among the surface with the flies. So you can see them on the surface. You can even see them and experience them in the bottom. But he says they dance on the surface among the flies, or moved stunned by their own grandeur over a bed of emerald, silhouette of submarine delicacy and horror, 100 feet long in their world. And then he says that, or move stunned by their own grandeur. So for pike, he says they are fully conscious of their majesty or dignity. So their mixture of delicacy and horror. So for onlookers, they produce horror. And where can you find them? Where they are moving over the bed of emerald or silhouette. Silhouette is dark outline or a shadow of submarine delicacy and horror. So if you have seen a submarine, as you know, is pandubi. So where it lies inside water, but it has power to destroy others. Similarly, this particular fish you can find where it's underwater, but it has the capacity to destroy 100 feet long in their world. And what is their grandeur? What is their majesty? How big they are? So they've been compared to submarine. So as submarine is very big, and it has the capacity to destroy other submarines and other ships and other things. Similarly, your pike has the ability to destroy other animals, and not only other animals but their own species as well. So, or move stunned by their own grandeur over a bed of emerald. Emerald is that the green thing that is there, that is found on the lakes, that is you call them kai in Hindi. So you can find them there. And then he says in ponds under the heat struck lily pads. And where else you can find them? In ponds under the heat struck lily pad, gloom of their stillness, locked on the last year's black leaves, watching upward, or hung in an amber cavern of weeds. And where else you can find them? So they are so small creatures, but they appear to be very large because they are born with that malevolent aged grin, because they are killers from the act. That is why they seem to be small creature, but they appear very large. So they live in ponds where they lie still in the darkness beneath the surface. And what is the surface? Under the heat struck lily pad. Lily pad is the flower that is there, and they are hidden under that heat struck lily pad. And why heat struck lily pad? Because of the sun rays that are falling on the heat struck lily pads. So gloom of their stillness. Gloom of their stillness refers to that they are lying there, hide themselves, you are unable to see them. And why they are still? Because they are in a process of attacking. Gloom of their stillness. So everything is so silent, they are hiding there. And why they are hiding there? Because they are going to attack them. Locked on the last year black leaves, watching upward. So they hide themselves under the last year leaves. So if you have seen the leaves that have fallen in the water, they turn black because they decompose. So the color that is there is black. So where you can find them? What are the possible places where you can find these pike? It says you can find them in the heat struck lily pad. And what is he trying to do? He is magnifying the simple act of the fish looking upward as a royalty, where he is keeping head high while sitting on a throne observing his subjects. What is the subject? The prey that this fish is going to attack. He states that the fish moves around in ponds under the lily pads, which protect him from the heat while tolling in the heat themselves. Also, it hung around. Where else you can find these pike? They hung around the bed made of the fallen leaves of the last year drawn in the ponds, or above amber cavern made of weeds while watching upward. So cavern is, as you know, is a cave, and the cave is made up of what? Amber. So it's the translucent liquid that comes out of water, that comes out of trees, I'm sorry. So you can find those fishes there. So they are suspended there, remain suspended among thick weeds. So you can find those fishes there. And then he says, the jaws hooked, clamp and fangs, not to be changed at this date, a life subdued to its instrument, the gills kneading quietly, and the pectorals. So as mentioned by the poet in the first stanza, that they are born perfect to kill and survive. So as it grows, there comes no necessity for it to change. So the jaws, hooked, clamp and fangs. So what is he trying to say? Jaws, as you know, jaws are the teeth that are there, and hooked, clamp and fangs. Fangs are the canine tooth, which are poisonous. And hooked clamp is that they are holding things together in their mouth. So they have the capacity to hold things in their mouth, and is because they are born like that. So a life subdued to its instrument. So a life for them is like an instrument. They cannot be changed. They cannot be any changes can be made, because they are made like this by nature. So a life subdued to its instrument. And a life of any other prey has been compared by the poet as an instrument to them. Why it has been compared to an instrument? Because they are doing what? They are holding it by their jaws, and they are eating it slowly and steadily. So the gills kneading. Gills are the teeth here. Kneading is massaging quietly, and the pectorals. Pectorals are the fin or muscle. So it can be for the other fish as well, and it can be for pike as well. So what they are doing? They have hold. So pike appears as if it has to live up to its expectation of inborn quality, yet it is clear that it is not strong enough in its core muscles. So there are two things that he is talking about. So the core muscles of this fish is also not very strong, but what they are born with? They are born with this malevolent aged grin, and that is why for them every other prey is like an instrument which they can easily eat. Now comes the second part. As I've talked about, that they are talking about, the poet is talking about the reminiscence of his childhood, and he says, three we kept behind glass. So glass here refers for the aquarium that he has created. So jungled in wheat, and they have kept a lot of wheat there. 3 inches, 4 and 4.5, and of course they were of three sizes: 3 inches, 4 inches, and 4.5. Suddenly, fed fry to them, suddenly there were two, and finally one. So what is he trying to tell you? That we does not tell us, whether it is friends or the siblings, or we assumed as his friends. They kept them in a glass jar, so it's aquarium where they have kept it. And few days later there was only one left. It tells us that in this world full of violence, only the stronger one remains. So they have given those fishes, these three fishes, a lot to eat, but finally he noticed that the one, which is stronger one, has eaten the other two. So suddenly there were two, and finally one. And then he says, with a sag belly and a grin it was born with, and indeed there spared nobody. 2 6 pounds each, over 2 feet long, high and dry and dead in the willow herb. So again he's repeating doing a repetition of the same thing that he has done in the first stanza. With a sag belly. Sag belly is with a sinking belly. So sinking or subsiding belly, and the grin it was born with. So what was the grin? The malevolent aged grin that he says. And indeed they spare nobody. And why they spare nobody? Because they are not only eating the other fishes, the other species, but they are eating their own species as well. 2 6 pounds each, over 2 feet long, high and dry, dead in the willow herb. So now he is stating again another incident. Here he gives another incident where he had to witness two pikes of about 6 pounds and 2 foot long goes against each other. While fighting, one enters into the mouth of the other, causing death to the both. And he says that incident represents a sheer truth that vice can never beget virtue. So he says, what is he trying to say? After describing that he has kept three in an aquarium, then he says that he has seen two fishes, two pikes, 6 pounds each, over 2 feet long. And how long they were? 2 feet long, high and dry and dead in the willow herb. So high and dry is that they were lying there. And why they were lying there? Because they had a fight where one enters into the mouth of the other, causing death to the both. And he says that these are the fishes that are lying there. And then he says one, and he's in this stanza he's continuing with the thing. One jam passed its gills over the other's gullet. Gullet is the throat. The outside eye stared as wise logs. The same iron in this eye, through its film shrank in death. So one passed jam its gill down the other's gullet. So as I've mentioned, that while fighting, one enters into the mouth, which causes the death of both of the fishes. The outside eye stared as wise logs. So what is happening here is locked in the grip of the other, and its eye seemed still retained its steely expression. So the same iron in this eye. So a metaphor by the poet has been used. So what sort of eye it has? As you know that iron is the strongest material. So similarly he says the strongness, the cunningness is same in the eye. Though both the fishes are dead, but the same intensity, the steely expression was there. Though it's film. Film is the thin coating or the layer that is there. Shrank in death. It became smaller. But what is he talking about? He says the the grin that is there, the power that is there, the strength that is there, that was visible from the eye. Though both these fishes are now dead, but the power is still there. And then again he is referring to another incident of a pond I fished 50 yards across, whose lilies and muscular tench had outlasted every visible stone of the monastery it was that planted them. So he says he had been trying to catch a particular fish from a pond, so 50 yards across, whose lilies and muscular tench is again a freshwater fish, had outlasted, has lasted longer than every visible stone of the monastery that planted them. Monastery, as you know, is the community of the monks. So he says that what has happened, so there was this monastery, but it is now underwater. So the stones are there, but also what is there? The pikes are there. Apart from the other fishes, the muscular tench, there are also pike that are there. And then he says, still's legendary depth, it was as deep as England. It held pike too immense to stir, so immense and old that past nightfall I dared not cast. So again, stanza 8 and 9 speak about the pond where the poet usually go fishing. It looked like a fine place for fishing, having spread across 50 yards. So he is describing the area that that particular pond has. So how much is the area? He says it's 50 yards. It is a very old pond with lilies and tench. These are, as I told you, are fresh and brackish water fishes. Has outlived the stone with which the monastery has built them. Legendary depths here. So still legendary depths. It was as deep as England. So legendary depth suggests that the depth of the pond is unclear. You will not be able to measure the depth. He metaphorically compares the pond to England to imply that both are impenetrable and known to the outside only through legends. So what is he trying to tell here? So he has used a metaphor. And what is the metaphor? A comparison has been used, sorry, a simile has been used. So what is that simile? He is comparing the depth of the pond, and he says it was as deep as England. So if you have, we have gone through the themes on which Ted Hughes work. So he talks about that how World War has created a lot of mess in the people around here. So maybe he is getting sarcastic about the situation of England. He says, though England is very big, but the condition of England is very bad. You would not be able to see the real condition by sitting here, by just watching the pond, because you have people like Pike. And what are the characteristic of Pike? What is the characteristic that Pike has? It can not only kill the other species, but they kill their own. So similarly, he's also trying to tell that what sort of people you will find here. You will find people like Pike. And as I have told you, that he is also talking about the thing that England and this pond are known to the outsiders only through legends. So legends is the legendary things that you have talked about. Whether they are true or not, you don't know, but he says but it has been stated like that because you have never been to such a place. So it was as deep as England. It held pike too immense to stir. Too immense to stir is that they are too big that they cannot move, so immense and old that past nightfall I dared not cast. Cast is to do fishing. So he says that after nightfall I would never dare, he was afraid to go on fishing, but silently cast and fished with the hair frozen on my head, for what might move, for what I might move. The still splashes on the dark pond, owls hushing the floating woods, frail on my ear against the dream, beneath night darkness, had freed, that slowly rose towards me, watching. And in the stanza 10 and 11, he tells us about how his fear of Pike grew along with him. So from his childhood to his adulthood to this particular situation, he says that how afraid of Pike he is. Even now he carries that fear. As a result, whenever he goes to that pond for fishing, he never dared to make noise, but fished silently. Following line details the experience of fishing at night in the pond. It is not clear if the poet has dreamt of fishing or had he trailed his fear of fishing in the pond at night. He illustrates the dreadful experience of fishing with all his hair frozen on head. So he has goosebumps. So why he has goosebumps? Because he is afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of Pike. And why is he afraid of Pike? Because he says Pike in that particular pond, they are too big that they cannot even move. So which reflects his fear what could be moving beneath the water, or which eye would be watching him. So eye here refers for the eye of the pike. Night near the pond unfolds the owl hushing the woods, which look like floating due to the extreme darkness. As the darkness of the night unfolds, he proposes that darkness beneath is freed. And what is that darkness? The darkness of the pike, because of the color, which is the green triggering the gold. So because of that color, what is happening, it seems as if that the pike seems to move in darkness. It raises, keeping his eye fixed on the poet, as if it is watching his actions, and maybe he's watching his actions or is ready to eat him. So but silently cast in fish with hair frozen on my head. So he has thrown his line there, so he's ready to fish there, but in silence and with having goosebumps, because he is afraid of what? For what might move, for what I might move. So what I might move here refers for the eye of the pike, that he has no idea that when this fish is going to move. The still splashes on the dark pond. And what sort of splashes? They are the still splashes. Splashes are the ripples that are created in the pond. And what sort of a pond it is? It is dark because it is night, so obviously there is no light, and because of the density of the water, the depth of the water, it is referring to as the double dark that is there. Owls hushing the floating woods. Floating woods is basically the woods that are in water. So where there are trees but there is water, so you cannot walk, so that is the floating woods. Frail on my ear against the dream. So it's delicate, it seems as if he is in a dream. Darkness beneath night darkness had freed. So the darkness of the fish beneath night darkness, so the double dark that is there, had freed, that slowly that rose slowly towards me watching. So what is happening now? He says that something started to move, and where the something started to move? In his in his idea that the pike, which are too immense to stir, and the pike which has the ability to kill anybody, that is moving towards him. So as you can see, the poem is written in 44 lines divided into 11 quatrains. It doesn't have any particular form or rhyme scheme, but if you're going to talk about the theme in Pike, so beauty and brutality of nature is there, reminiscence of childhood that is there, and inborn instinct are the major themes that are present. He also refers to Pike, that is beautiful by nature. At the same time, it is meant to kill for its survival, which is the brutal fate of it. From growing the pike in a glass jar and the dreadful experience of seeking a pike, killing another, gives the overview of the poet's experiences with pike and the impact of it that it had on the poet, because he's still afraid of those pikes. And then he says, inborn killer instinct of the pike is an implication of the natural human instinct, comes with every individual if they do not ask for it. And the metaphorical use, as I've told you, of England is used as metaphor to describe the depth of the pond. He directly implies that like the pond, England also has its own depth, which is not known to many. It can be considered, as I've told, that it can also be considered as a satire on England for keeping many people who are violent by nature and walks the city of England with killer instinct, or people who are ready to go bigger at the cost of the fellow human being. This can also be considered as an hyperbole, as it is a poem of reminiscence. So this is all about Pike. I hope you have understood the poem. I hope that all the stanzas are clear to you, and the comparison that he is trying to make is clear to you. But in case if you have any problem, any question, any queries, so you can post it on the Google Classroom. Thank you for today's class, and go through the explanation. Try to make the notes. Study hard. Okay. Bye, girls.